Before we start applying our simple keyers, let's close down a few of these windows over here on the right-hand side. By closing these panels, we'll get a little more room in order to see our image and the green screen that we want to remove. Again, I'll use Alt or Option / in order to fit this to the window. If you're familiar with Adobe's Photoshop, you may know the magic wand. The magic wand selects a range of pixels based on color. After Effects works in a similar way, picking a range of colors based on your color choice, then removing them from the image. However, After Effects, unlike Photoshop, will apply this selection to your entire clip, not just one frame. With the layer selected, we'll go up to the Effects pull-down window and take a look at the entire family of keying tools. Here we can see at the top we've got a simple wire removal, which allows us to remove a straight line of pixels. We also have a color difference key and a color key. We'll start out with the color key because it really defines what the pixel selection looks like. By clicking on it, we get our Effects Controls window, and I'll just bring this over and dock it with the project panel so we keep enough room to see our entire green screen comp. By default, our key color is blue, but we want to key out the green color. So we can either use the color selector or use the eyedropper and go into our scene and pick a color. Now you can see that there are different colors here with a brighter green up here and a darker green down in the lower right-hand corner. But we really want to concentrate on the green that's the closest to his body because that's the green that's most important to key out. Once we click once, you can see what's happening. A small set of pixels is being removed, and if we zoom in, we can see that there's a little bit of the transparency grid now revealing through those pixels. Like Photoshop's magic wand, this tool has a color tolerance, and by increasing it, we're allowing more of that color to be keyed. When we first picked the color with a 0 color tolerance, After Effects only allowed that specific color to be keyed. By changing the color tolerance to a greater value, what we're doing is allowing more of that color within a certain range to be removed from our scene. By increasing the value of our edge thinning, we're taking off some of the anti-aliasing that is occurring through this tool. By modifying the edge feather, we'll blur the resulting key, and usually it will create a key that's soft not only on the edge of our green, but on the edge of our subject as well. This is usually not something we want. We'll remove this particular key by clicking on the effect and using Delete to remove it. Under Effects, we'll go back down to our keying group, and this time we'll choose the color range. Now, color range is similar to the color key in as much as we can select a color. So using the eyedropper, we'll select the first color. Unlike the color key, rather than simply relying on the color's tolerance, we can add to the colors, creating a range of colors that will be keyed out. By clicking on the plus eyedropper, we can now add a separate color, which will add to our color range and allow us to key out more information. We can either use the icon and then click into our comp window, or we can use the icon with the plus mark and click inside this small black and white image. Here we can see much of the key, and by clicking in this image, we can also remove that same information. At the bottom, we see that there's a fuzziness value, and the fuzziness value is a softness, which allows the pixels to get a little bit blurry at the edge of the matte. The key works in a lab color space. Now, the lab is not like lab processing, but instead it's a spectral distribution of RGB. It's difficult to explain the precise mathematics of LAB versus RGB without some very complex trigonomic expressions. However, L is basically our luminance values, and A is a value of magenta, yellow, blue, and B is a value of blue, yellow. By using LAB, we're seeing a closer definition to how the eye actually perceives light. By continuing to click, we can create a much finer key than we could by using the simple color key. If you're uncomfortable with working in a color space of LAB, you can always switch this to YUV or RGB. We'll remove this effect again by clicking on it, then using the Delete key to remove that effect and remove the key. We'll go to the Effect pull-down window and take a look at one last simple key called the Linear Color key. By clicking on this one, we see that it looks similar to the Color Range key. We can use the eyedropper here to click and create a simple key based on a single color. However, if we take a look at the options down below, we see that we only have a matching tolerance and a matching softness value that we can control numerically. Unlike the lab colors, we're basically adding a linear color much like the way the color key does. This doesn't give us a range of colors, but just allows us to increase the variations of that single color. And by increasing the variations, we change the matching tolerance and the matching softness of the key that is produced. We can remove pixels by using the eyedropper with the negative icon, and then removing pixels will bring back some of the image that we may have lost. Here we can see that there's still some green throughout the image, and we can still see some of the green from the green screen that hasn't been fully keyed out. That's all right, because we'll take a look at one last effect that will help us to suppress that color, although it won't actually key it out. Under the Effect pull-down, we'll go back to our keying family, and at the very bottom, we'll find Spill Suppressor. Spill Suppressor isn't really a keyer, inasmuch as it doesn't remove the pixels from our image. However, what it will do is change the color value of the pixels that may have been tinted with the color of our screen. Again, this is going to default to blue. You can change this very simply by clicking with the eyedropper and clicking in Screen to grab a color of green. You can also use the eyedropper anywhere in your application, including the key color of the linear color effect directly above it. By clicking on it, we've added it to the color to suppress in our Spill Suppressor. In the comp window, we can see that Spill Suppressor has changed all of those pixels to a gray tone. Even the pixels that were in the shirt and were once green are now pushed to a gray neutral color. We can change the value of the suppression by changing our amount here from 100 down to 0. As we do that, the original color becomes introduced into our composition again.